Welcome to the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing podcast. There has never been a better time for writers. More information, options, and opportunities are available to you, but navigating these requires insight. Join Mark Leslie Lefebvre as he draws upon more than a quarter century of experience as a writer, a bookseller, and a trusted book industry consultant to explore and reflect on the writing and publishing landscape to help you make informed choices on your writer journey.
Well, here's a big giant oops. I just finished producing the next episode for the podcast, and in the entire notes and all the work that I've done and in all the audio, I called it episode 13. You know how some apartment buildings or some hotels don't have a 13th floor? Well, the Stark Reflections podcast almost didn't have a 12th episode because for some reason I thought the next episode was episode 13, and so I completely skipped episode 12. So this is recorded really, really quickly, and because in episode 13, which is an interview with author T.S. Paul, I talk about how my interview with him and a recent listen to a speech by Arnold Schwarzenegger to a group of college students about his rules for success came into play, I thought, well, I screwed up. I may as well try to fix things by inserting a very short 12th episode, which features an abbreviated version of that clip from Arnold Schwarzenegger of his 6 secrets to success, or his 6 rules for success. So my apologies for screwing up, but you at least get this really short, almost missing 12th episode, but at least when you listen to episode 13, hopefully you will listen to episode 13, you're not going to bail on me at this point, you'll understand when I start talking about Arnold's speech, how his speech and thinking about what Scott was talking about, T.S. Paul, whose name is Scott, was talking about, how those came together for me. In any case, I'm trying to make a screw up work here. Please, come on, bear with me. Here's the speech from Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Now, of course, people ask me all the time. They say to me, what is the secret to success? The first rule is trust yourself. But what is most important is that you have to dig deep down and ask yourselves, who do you want to be? Not what, but who. And I'm talking about not what your parents and teachers want you to be, but you. I'm talking about figuring out for yourselves what makes you happy, no matter how crazy it may sound to the people. So rule number 1 is, of course, trust yourself no matter what anyone else thinks. And of course, rule number 2 is break the rules. We have so many rules in life about everything. I say break the rules, not the law, but break the rules. It is impossible to be a maverick or a true original if you're too well behaved and don't want to break the rules. You have to think outside the box. That's what I believe. After all, what is the point of being on this earth if all you want to do is be liked by everyone and avoid trouble? The only way that I ever got any place was by breaking some of the rules. Which of course brings me to rule number 3. Don't be afraid to fail. Anything I've ever attempted, I was always willing to fail. You can't always win, but don't be afraid of making decisions. You can't be paralyzed by fear of failure, or you will never push yourself. You keep pushing because you believe in yourself and in your vision. And you know that it is the right thing to do, and success will come. So don't be afraid to fail. Which brings me to rule number 4, which is don't listen to the naysayers. I mean, how many times have you heard that you can't do this and you can't do that and it has never been done before? As a matter of fact, I love it when someone says that no one has ever done this before, because then when I do it, that means that I'm the first one that has done it. So pay no attention to the people that say it can't be done. I always listen to myself and said, yes, you can. And that brings me to rule number 5, which is the most important rule of all. Work your butt off. Now, I always believed leaving no stone unturned. Muhammad Ali, one of my great heroes, had a great line in the 70s when he was asked, how many sit-ups do you do? He said, I don't count my sit-ups. I only start counting when it starts hurting. When I feel pain, that's when I start counting, because that's when it really counts. That's what makes you a champion. That's the way it is with everything. No pain, no gain. And let me tell you, it is important to have fun in life, of course. But when you're out there partying, horsing around, someone out there at the same time is working hard. Someone is getting smarter and someone is winning. Just remember that. But if you want to win, there's absolutely no way around hard work. None of my rules, by the way, of success will work unless you do. I've always figured out that there's 24 hours a day. You sleep 6 hours. And you have 18 hours left. Now, I know there's some of you out there now and says, well, wait a minute, I sleep 8 hours or 9 hours. Well, then just sleep faster, I would recommend. Just remember, you can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in the pocket. And that takes me to rule number 6, which is a very important rule. It's about giving back. Whatever path that you take in your lives, you must always find time to give something back. Something back to your community, give something back to your state or to your country. Let me tell you something, reaching out and helping people will bring you more satisfaction than anything else you've ever done. Remember those 6 rules. Trust yourself, break some rules, don't be afraid to fail, ignore the naysayers, work like hell, and give something back.
Well, I sincerely hope that you got some inspiration from what I believe is a very inspirational talk from Arnold Schwarzenegger. All those critical elements. I talk about it more in episode 13. But what's the lesson here? The lesson here is that we're going to screw up. And I think it's important to take ownership for when you screw up. I screwed up. I completely somehow missed the fact that I didn't have a published 12th episode. I don't know why. It's not like there's like 100 episodes and I could get that confused. So in any case, I screwed up and I ended up producing episode 13. And then as I finished producing it, I said, well, wait a second. What was episode 12? And I realized I missed one. So I messed up, but I'm going to take ownership for my own mistakes and my own failures. Hopefully you can look at some of the things that you did that didn't work and try to figure out how you can learn from that mistake, or even how you can say, okay, here's what I did wrong, here's how I screwed up, here's what I think I can do to at least patch things together so I can move on to the next step. In this particular case, I'm missing an episode 12, so let's make a quick episode 12, provide the listeners a little something of inspiration, show them, like them, I am very, very human, and move on. Thank you so much for listening to a little mini screw-up episode number 12 of the Stark Reflections podcast. We'll see you very, very shortly, not even next week, in episode 13.
Thank you for listening to the Stark Reflections podcast. You can find show notes for each episode at starkreflections.ca.
The music for this podcast, Laser Groove, was composed and produced by Kevin MacLeod. Check out more of Kevin's great music at incomtech.com.